So when someone is protecting their heart, and their heart, they know it's kind of closed off, and you've created a barrier between yourself and the world, and you're protecting your heart, and you're on the defense as well. When you've got a heart protection, you will be on the defense, and when anyone goes on the defense, you're waiting for you're vigilantly protecting. But the best form of defense is attack. So anything that becomes almost you feel vulnerable at any time, or you feel nervous at any time, you're just going to immediately go on the attack, whether it's necessary or not, because it's the way that your defense mechanism is working. So you get in there with an attack before you are attacked, or you feel attacked, or even if you think you're being attacked, because something you take things personally very, very quickly, especially when you've got a protection over your heart. You're going to be very, very, very sensitive to anything that is a criticism. And what happens in that moment, the slightest hint of a criticism becomes an issue for you, and so you attack before that can really happen, or if you feel it even slightly, or a look or whatever, or a word that doesn't sit with you, you're going to jump on it. That protection in your heart is also there to prevent pain. You don't want to be hurt. And maybe it's because you have been hurt in the past, or you have been wounded in the past, or you felt criticized in the past, or you felt that you're not good enough in the past, or you've got no self-esteem, or you haven't really built that, or you've done things that you're hiding yourself from, or you have some shame, or you have some self-judgment, and that self-judgment or that self-shame or whatever it is locked in your heart, whether it was you that created that or personally, but you're going to keep the cycle going. And so what happens when you protect your heart, you lock the pain in. It's locked in. But it's really, and it's so difficult, because anything else that comes in that is perceived pain, you're going to think, well, I've got to get rid of that. But you're also going to, this pain that's locked in is going to be projected out, because it's got to go somewhere, because it's not healed. And so you've got to heal it. You've got to go into that, and where's this coming from? Where's the source of this? How can I connect with this to heal it? You're not going to heal anything unless you let you go in. And that may mean going into something that you've got great shame about, or you're feeling very nervous about, or you've got a lot of judgment about, or you think it's going to be affecting somebody or some other person that may have been part of that whole experience. But your experience has caused that trauma and that internal trauma, and you're the one that's protecting yourself, and then it's going to be launched out at other people. It's going to be until it's healed. And so the protection that's you're trying to keep yourself safe with is actually locking pain in, and it's keeping love from being felt. And your heart, when you're asking your heart, what's your heart desire? Your heart desires to go back to the essence, and to allow the essence of who you are to be there, which is love, which is self-acceptance, which is acceptance of everything you are. It's also accepting the pain that you've been through and healing it and connecting to it. And it's looking at all the darkness, and it's looking at all the light. It's looking at everything that you are. and doing what you can to bring yourself back to that place of acceptance, love, and connection without judgment. Because if you've got the judgment within yourself, you are going to project it out to other people. And that's where I feel that the whole cycle is being perpetuated. And the more that this pain is locked in, the more protection you've got. The cycle is constantly perpetuated, and you're in a never-ending loop of pain, anxiety, stress. Projection causes more pain, causes more shame, and the whole thing keeps going. And you've got no point of reference for love, acceptance, and peace. So you're going to self-sabotage, you're going to blame, you're going to fall into these power struggles, you're going to feel not good enough, because it's a terrible feeling when that's locked in. And it becomes a feeling that makes you feel, this is who I am. And the essence of you is not that. The essence of you is something completely different. It's nothing to do with all that. That is the cycle of trauma. And it's like the healing has to go there. You got to connect with it. You got to feel it before you can heal it. Then you can love it, and then you can grow in consciousness. That's the whole essence of the cycle that we want to move forward with. And the further away you get from that, the more frustrated you become, the more disappointed you become, the more traumatized you become, because at the end of the day, that's who we fundamentally are. It's the essence of who we are. And that love is all that we're longing for, to get back to it. And it starts with ourselves. And that's where you need to go. So if you're not loving yourself to eat properly, if you're not loving yourself to do the things that you know makes you feel good about yourself, with kindness, with compassion for yourself, and with respect for others in your life. But you got to build that in. You're not showing yourself the kindness, the love, and the compassion. You're going to sabotage that. You're not going to do it. You're just going to make excuses and get frustrated and then blame. And that's the cycle being perpetuated, when at the end of the day, all it is that we need to do is bring it back to what we need for us. We're going to listen to what our heart needs and give it. Not selfishly, not in a self-absorbed way, but in a self-aware way. We do it with kindness and acceptance of, this is what I need to do. If I don't, I'm just going to hurt myself. And I want to show how love is by starting with myself. If I can't love myself, how can I expect anyone else to say, I love you, but I'm going to believe them? Am I going to believe them? No. Why? But I'm going to need them to say it. Because why? Because I'm not giving it to myself. And so I'm going to need them to say, show me love. I got to show me love. I got to show me love. If I'm not showing me love, how am I going to believe anyone else who is trying to show me love? I'm just not going to believe it. I'm not going to think it's true. And so that's the stuff that has become a cycle. And that's what I feel that you need to interrupt. And how you interrupt it isn't by anybody else, isn't about showing it to other people. It's about starting with yourself. It's about listening. Just like we listened to in that meditation. What does my heart desire? What does my heart desire in this present moment? What am I longing for? My heart's locked in. I feel I've got a protection. Well, does that tell me that my heart desires to be free? Does my heart desire not to be free to pat my back, a knapsack on my back and take off? That's not the freedom I'm talking about. The freedom to be myself, my freedom to love myself, my freedom to show love without need, without conditions, without having to get it right, without doing it with being love. But if I'm not able to bring that to me, how am I going to bring that to my friends, my family, my loved ones. How am I going to do that? I'm going to do love. I'm going to do the things that look like love. But maybe I'm doing them and I'm resenting it. That becomes a whole other dynamic. And then the resentment is going to build and it's never going to be enough. And then I'm going to get frustrated because I've been showing all this and doing all these things. I'm doing all this work and doing all the chores and doing everything, resenting it as I go. And the energy is coming from fear and resentment and pain. And then that builds up and I'm going to lash out eventually. Whereas I come back to love, I'm doing this from a place of love. I'm doing this because it feels right to do it and peaceful to do it. Not doing it doesn't feel peaceful. If I'm throwing crap into my grocery cart and then saying, well, you're not making any changes, and I'm doing that becomes a complete mess. Whereas if I don't want to eat crap, don't buy crap, don't put it in your mouth, don't do it. Show yourself some love and respect. Whether other people do the same, that's not your job. That's your job is to show by example. Be what I call a way shower. Show the way, a way shower. So you're the way shower by showing you how you're doing it, how you're showing yourself self-love without being, it's not selfish. People get that really mixed up. Selfishness is not love. It's just need. It's greed. It's coming from a trauma. Self-love is self-acceptance. I know this is what works for me, so I'm going to give myself that. And if you guys want to do something different, I'm going to accept you too. And I can do that because I'm building self-acceptance. If I have no self-acceptance, I'm not going to be able to accept people on the outside. I'm going to judge them. Because why? Because I'm running my own self-judgment. If I'm judging me, I'm going to judge you. Can't judge one without the other. Can't judge myself without judging other people. I can't judge you without judging myself. But I have self-acceptance, which is just another way of showing self-love. Then I'm going to find it a lot easier to say, well, I may not like what you're doing. I may not even agree with what you're doing, but I accept that's where you are right now and I love you and that's it. But I'm also looking after myself the way that I know I am aware of that works for me. And if I don't do this, I'm showing myself self-abuse. And if I'm abusing myself, I'm going to find it really easy to abuse other people or abuse you. Even though I love you, I'm going to abuse you because I'm doing this to myself. This is how I am right now. And it's up to me as an individual to stop the self-abuse before I will stop the external subtle abuses, which could be judgment or a look or a snide comment or sarcasm or stonewalling you or ignoring you or deliberately doing things to piss you off. I'm going to do these things and then I'm going to justify it because that's what I'm doing with myself. And it comes back to you and only you at the end of the day. But when you build that self-acceptance and self-love within yourself, that's how you are able to really unconditionally share that with the people that you care about. And you're not doing it because you think it's the right thing to do. You're doing it because it's the only thing you want to do, because it feels peaceful. It's not right, it's peaceful. And your conscience is what is guiding you. Your heart is what is guiding you. You're not trying to work out what's the right thing to say or do. You're coming from a whole other place. And I know that you're able to do that because I've seen you doing that. But it's like you go up into your head and then try and work it out and then get all stressed. And when stress takes over, you're actually saying fear's driving this now. And actually, There's nothing peaceful about fear driving anything. It's just a stressful situation, and all my decisions are made from fear. And you're either operating your life from fear, which is stress or anxiety or reactivity or blame or whatever, or you're operating your life from a place of love. And when I say your life, I'm saying in that moment. In that moment, you're either operating yourself from fear, or in that moment, you're operating your life from love. Love, acceptance, kindness, compassion, honesty, truth. I'm not playing any games. I'm just accepting where I am right now. I'm listening. I'm not meaning to harm anyone. I have no intentions to harm anyone. But I will also include myself in that, because I'm not including, often I don't include myself. I don't include myself in love, and I don't include myself in harm. It's all out there. It's all on the external. But if you're bringing it back to you, what do I need? I need self-love. That is another way of saying, and often I think self-love is quite a difficult thing to quantify what that is, but it's really just about self-acceptance, knowing yourself, becoming aware of yourself, becoming aware of what you know works for you, that is good for you, and will keep changing as you continue to grow in your life, as things change in your life. But the self-love is the biggest thing, and that starts with self-acceptance. If you've got no self-acceptance for yourself, it's highly unlikely that you're going to have acceptance of others. And what you don't accept or understand, you will not like, and likely you will judge it. And that's the problem, and that self-judgment becomes projected out to everybody in your world. Sometimes very subtly, sometimes behind closed doors, but resentment builds. But sometimes it can be very overt, and you can just volcanically erupt, or you can play massive hurtful games. And then you're just building more shame. So then you have less ability to accept that. But that's the whole cycle that is needing interrupted, and it doesn't start with anyone else. It starts with you, and only you. You're the only person that can change that within you. Nobody else. Not one other person on the planet can do it. You can seek counsel, you can go to retreats, you can go to seminars, but at the end of the day, your choices and how you live your life, what you eat, what you drink, how you think, it comes back down to you as an individual. And that's really where that's where the problem seems to lie, because the self-responsibility that I talk about in the cornerstones of self-love, which I know you've been in a seminar with that, the cornerstones, the effort is a constant, vigilant effort. And part of that effort is to take self-responsibility, to accept what you have become aware of within yourself. And that doesn't mean you like it, but you accept it, you own it, you take ownership of the things that you do, you accept it, and then you decide from that acceptance to take a responsible action. So you build self-trust, you build self-love, you build all of that. And that's a cycle that you begin to perpetuate and will build, but it takes massive, massive effort. And it doesn't take effort now and again, in certain times when it suits, or when you feel you've got the time. It's constant, vigilant effort. And I think that's where I see, throughout the years, that's all I've seen. It's just like, well, at least I do this, I do my yoga or I do my meditation, but the rest of the time I'm just thinking a load of crap thoughts, I'm eating a lot of crap food, I'm not doing the things, I'm not listening to myself, I'm reacting, I'm falling into the habits. And those are the things that we're trying to unlearn, Andrew. And that's the things that need to change. That makes sense. Does that make sense to you?